Thank you very much. So, officially, welcome everybody to ChatGPT 5 new features and updates. My name is Hector Garcia, and this webinar has been done in collaboration with CPA Academy. As you notice on the top right of the slides that you see live on the screen, there is a bit.ly link that allows you to see the live slides. So, if I make any modifications to the slides on the fly, go ahead and use the live link to have the updates, even though we do post the original state of the slides in PDF during the live presentation, which, as she mentioned, you can see that in the handout section. So today we're going to spend a couple minutes with the introduction. I'll talk about myself briefly. Then we're going to spend about 50 minutes or so talking about ChatGPT updates. This is a generic updates about ChatGPT. So we're going to talk about how ChatGPT works and all the new things that they added. However, because this is a CPA Academy webinar, the context is for accounting firms. So a lot of the commentary I'll make and maybe the examples I'll make are really mostly accounting related. In this updates video, we'll talk about how to compare models. So comparing ChatGPT within its own models, comparing it to their competitors. There's a lot of competitors to ChatGPT. We'll talk about a very exciting new development, which is there's a free local version of GPT called the OSS, which you can download into your computer and run this chatbot in your computer without the data ever going to a server or anything like that. And I'll explain why this might be the new trend that accounting firms, I would say professional firms in general, are probably going to want to use local chatbots instead of the web version. We'll talk about some additional ChatGPT news. We'll talk about the subscription versions. There's a lot of confusion about the different subscription versions. We'll talk about the different models and options inside of the platform. We'll talk about how to customize your ChatGPT experience. That's really important for me. Like the reason why I continue to use ChatGPT is because like fine wine, it just gets better with time. Because the more I chat with it, the more history that it has, the better it knows and understands me. So the answers get just so much better. So a lot of people, when they first go into ChatGPT and it gets the first wrong answer, they get kind of discouraged about it and they move on. And I've been using it for almost 3 years. So at this point, we have 3 years of not just ChatGPT getting better, but the context getting better because it has all the chats that we've had. And anything that's me playing around with it, I usually delete those chats. That way it doesn't become part of the context. And lastly, we'll do a couple of prompting examples. I have a couple of really interesting prompts that you can try. And, I think you will be very encouraged to use ChatGPT using those particular use cases. Then I'll answer some live questions that are on the chat. I'll try to answer as much as possible. But like CPA Academy mentioned, whatever questions I don't get to answer live, I'll get an email. And if there's an answer I can give, I'll try to email you back that answer. And then we'll let CPA Academy wrap up the webinar. So that's it. So let's get started. I'm a CPA based out of Florida. I'm practicing bookkeeping and tax since 2009. I have a YouTube channel with over 300,000 subscribers. The link is in the slides if you want to see my videos. I'm also the founder of WriteTool, which is a Chrome extension that gets added to QuickBooks Online that enhances its navigational experience. And the latest and greatest of all the activities that I've done, the peak of my career has been building the Reframe conference. So this year in Miami in November, it's 2.5-day conference focused on pricing with confidence in this post-AI world where these conversations about pricing are getting kind of awkward because our customers are asking us, what about ChatGPT? What about AI? Can't AI do it? And they're implying that you should reduce your fees because you're using AI tools that are speeding up the process. So if you're interested in that, reframeaccounting.com. My email is hector@reframeaccounting.com. Easy. If you have any questions about ChatGPT, what I do, anything that we covered here, any other content I ever covered in CPA Academy, go ahead and email me and I will try to answer as soon as possible. There's my email on the screen, on the slides. Write it down. I'm pretty accessible. Okay, I'm going to start with the first most important thing. And I keep saying first most important thing because I mentioned this in every single ChatGPT webinar, and I will continue to do it because I want people to be encouraged to not just think of ChatGPT as the only option for artificial intelligence. ChatGPT has a platform for developers, and you do have to create an account. You don't have to put a credit card or anything. And then once you get into here, so you would just click on the link that's in the slides. When you get to here, you can actually compare one model versus another model. So if you want to see how the old ChatGPT, which is ChatGPT 4.0 or whatever, compares to the new ChatGPT, you can go in there and let's take a look at GPT 4.1 mini versus GPT 5 mini. And this is overwhelming. This is a lot of models. So almost like the entire history of every single version of ChatGPT is in here, and you can compare them. And the reason why this is useful for developers, people like me that are now developing software that talks to OpenAI and that sort of thing, I want to see which model is the most optimal, that's going to give me the best answer, but also that is most cost effective. Because the higher the model, the more thinking the model has, the more expensive it is for developers. So keep that in mind. So I'm going to ask it a simple question, like explain. I'm going to put here, explain section 179 for my client that wants to buy a $250,000 Mercedes G-Wagon for his business, right? Typical situations that we have, and we have to, answer that, okay? And again, one model, like in this particular case, one model start answering. This one, it's kind of waiting because it's probably one of the newer models. It could be backed up, but that's kind of the point. I'm going to refresh or maybe wait for it to try it again. Let's see if it'll work again. But let's see on the right side, you see that in there. So I'm just going to refresh and try one more time. Like all things live webinars, sometimes they don't go exactly as planned. So maybe I'll try a different model here. Let's try this one. And let me try that again. So explain section 179 to my client that wants to buy a Mercedes G-Wagon that's $250,000. Okay, and then we'll hit send. Okay, for some reason the left side of here is giving me trouble, but I promise you, when you try it on your own, you're gonna see basically two answers side by side. And this is OpenAI's own version of the model comparison. I'm gonna show you in the slides. There's another link called LM Arena, which is a third party. This is not ChatGPT. And there's two really cool things you can do here. So one, if you go straight into the link that I gave you in the slides, what you get to see is a crowdsourced scoring system where people like you and me, test models side by side in this website, and they rank it, and then basically it ranks all the models. Now, to know which is the best model out there might not be as useful, although right now it's probably pretty useful to know, especially today. I'm doing a ChatGPT 5 webinar. It happens to be the best, highest rated model. So if you're using ChatGPT 5, you could pretty much rest assured that this is the best model available. And then the next one is Google Gemini. And then we have a different version of ChatGPT 03, and then we have Claude, and then we have Grok. So you get to see them. But by the way, if you look at the scores, they're marginal, right? They're not really that different. But just to kind of give you mechanics, the way it works in here is you ask the question here, explain section 179 to my client that wants to buy a $250,000 Mercedes G-Wagon for their business. Okay, and then I hit send, and then what it does is it gives you two random models. Again, just kind of give you an idea how this works. So when you go look at the website, you know whether you trust it or not or whatever. It gives the user two random models, and it's going to give you two versions of the answer. And then, again, the average user like you and me will read the both of them and say, I think A is better than B, or B is better than A. And then based on the answers that based on the voting, it goes back and puts it in the leaderboard, so you can know to rank them. So that gives you a general idea why I keep repeating over and over these things, because if you don't have as much time as I do to play with ChatGPT and stuff like that, at least looking at the leaderboard gives you a general idea where all these models stand. It's not just ChatGPT, it's Claude, it's Grok, it's Google Gemini, it's Perplexity. There's a lot of companies already battling for this space. So I think it's valuable either way. Now, I want to talk to you about GPT OSS. Now, this is a free version of GPT that you can download into your computer locally. And the app that I like to use is called LM Studio. And in the slides, there's a little link that takes you to the LM Studio website that kind of talks about this LM Studio. You don't have to read that. All you have to do is click on download. And once you click on download, you pick, whether you're in a Mac or PC or Linux or whatever, you download it, and then you're going to run an app that looks like this. So right now, what you see on the screen here is LM Studio. This is local in my computer. This is not a website, okay? So what's valuable about this, it not being a website, is that the data is not going anywhere. It's staying locally in my computer. So that's probably the single most valuable thing. So in here, what you do is you click on this little magnifying glass on the top right, and then you're gonna get to choose which model you can download. So this LM Studio is really, really awesome. It gives you access to all the free chatbots available that you can download in your computer, and there's tons of them. Thank God for the internet, right? And all the people out there building amazing free things for us. But one of them is OpenAI's GPT OSS. Now, I recommend you get the 20 billion version, not the 120 billion version, because 120 billion version is actually designed to run in $30,000 computers. So you download that one and run it, it'll take like 10 minutes to give you an answer. So no good. But the 20 billion version, that's pretty good. So once you're ready to download it, you just click on the little download button. And then once it's all downloaded, you click on use in new chat and click on load model. You don't have to mess with the settings. Just click on load model, and then it loads it locally. Again, I can't, disconnect from Wi-Fi because I'm on a live webinar. But if you literally download LM Studio and disconnect your internet and use it, you'll see that'll work. Explain section 179 to my client that wants to deduct a $250,000 Mercedes G-Wagon for their business. Keep using the same example on purpose so we can kind of benchmark these. And look, it thought for 16 seconds, literally, and then it started giving me the answer. This is amazing. I don't even have to go to a website to get GPT level power. And for a lot of stuff, you're going to like this, especially if you want to upload, you want to put sensitive information in there, and you're kind of apprehensive about giving, OpenAI, ChatGPT sensitive information. You can start playing with this model. So my take on this, I strongly encourage to test it out. The links are in the slides for you. Okay, let me switch over to some interesting OpenAI ChatGPT news. So Sam Altman, in a podcast, and again, I like a random person in a podcast making a comment is technically not news. However, I think you should click on this link and kind of look at it and read it, and then click on the little clip. It should be here somewhere. Here, click on this little clip here and watch it and listen to what he says. Okay, this is the CEO of OpenAI. Again, random guy, not a lawyer, not the government, not official information, but he says that there is no protection for privacy with ChatGPT. He says the government is has told them that they need to keep records of the chats for everybody because they could subpoena them in court. Now, by hearing me say this or hearing him say that, you're probably immediately ready to throw the towel and say, forget it. That's in itself enough for me not to ever use ChatGPT, because that's kind of scary. Like our conversations can be used against us in a court case. So there probably needs to be some laws built around this, and because there's no history, there's no precedent, nobody really knows what could happen in a case where let's say the U.S. government subpoenas your private chats with your ChatGPT. So I think that's interesting. That's big news. I'm being the messenger. I don't have an opinion either way. I hope that that's a really good warning, and I hope that accelerates the process of creating real laws around this so people can have privacy, with their chats. Next set of news is ChatGPT went ahead and offered the U.S. government $1 per employee. $1 per employee. I don't know how many employees are in the U.S. government. Let's say 1 million, whatever. So it's $1 million. So $1 per employee for the next year to have access to ChatGPT Enterprise. Now, ChatGPT Enterprise costs about $500 a year per employee, right? We're talking about a huge, deep discount. Why are they doing this? Well, because they know that if GPT is in every facet of our lives, not just work, not just play, but also government, they make a major breakthrough and they become mainstream. Now, interesting enough, Anthropic came back and did the same offer but to all three branches of government. So they actually said, look, we're going to go, all three branches of government, we're going to be offering also Anthropic Claude, which is the biggest competitor to ChatGPT, for the same dollar. So I find that interesting. So now these companies are trying to penetrate the government, or at least penetrate the government employees to use GPT. Next one is ChatGPT 5. This is a summer news. It's available in all versions, including the free edition. Now, remember, the free edition is very limited. You can only have 10 messages, so 10 prompts, let's say, every 5 hours. So it's just there really for a preview. I don't think anybody can functionally truly use ChatGPT free. Like if you're going to use ChatGPT, you got to pay. I think, for it to be functional anyway. Now, it doesn't stop at 10 messages. It switches to ChatGPT Mini, which is the fastest version, but also quote unquote the dumbest version, right? So when the thinks the least, it's quicker to give answers, it's quickly to hallucinate. Custom GPTs, which is a big gripe that we had, us GPT power users, it was only able to use older fast models. Now custom GPTs can access all models, including GPT-5 and the thinking GPT-5, which is the best, basically the most accurate answer you're going to get. Projects, if you use projects in GPT, now have access to custom GPTs by doing @mention. So you can build 2 or 3 custom GPTs that do different things, and then within a project you can invoke any of them to do a particular task. That's pretty awesome. During the summer, they also released 2 different modes. One is called Agents mode, and the other one is called Study mode. I will do a demo of Study mode, but I'm going to skip a demo of Agents mode because Agent mode sometimes takes 15 minutes or 20 minutes, 30 minutes to give you an answer. So it's not conducive to a webinar. So it's my role to make a really good Agents video, put it in YouTube that's edited, for the waiting times, because it's very difficult to showcase this live on a webinar. And as you know, I try to showcase the product, not pictures of the product. And as we mentioned, the free offline version of ChatGPT is available via GPT OSS, which I just demoed. Okay, I'm going to transition over to subscription options. So first, as I mentioned earlier, GPT OSS, that local model, you can download for free. You can use LM Studio or Llama, use it locally in your computer. You don't have to pay anything, subscribe to anything. There's also ChatGPT free. So you go to chatgpt.com, create an account. You will be throttled to your 10 messages for the ChatGPT 5, the best edition. And then up to 50 messages, you could be throttled, or literally say, come back in 6 hours for their lower editions. Now, the Plus edition is $20 a month. That's great for individuals that are using ChatGPT a little bit more. If you're using it for business, and there's another reason why the business edition, the team edition, is the most apt for firms, accounting firms, legal firms, whatever. That's $30 a month per team member. You have to have at least two users. And then the Pro Edition, and there's a little typo on the slide, so I'll fix that up really quick. The Pro Edition is $200 a month. That's for individuals with really heavy usage. Now, I happen to have both, the Team Edition and the Pro Edition. So the Team is the one that I use to share stuff with my team, and the Pro Edition I use when I have to create a lot of heavy content and I have to be using it over and over, especially for coding. I'm using Pro for coding nowadays, even though I'm not a developer. I know nothing about code, but I use it to create sort of code to simulate things that I want to develop. And I give it to the developers to really complete it. And then the Enterprise Edition is $60 a month per team member, but it requires a minimum of 150 licenses. So that's only for larger businesses. And there's a 12-month contract, et cetera, et cetera. So when you go into ChatGPT free edition and you go into upgrade, this is what the screen looks like. You can either go to Plus or go to Pro, so $20, $200. Or if you click on the little tab in the top and click on Business, then you have the option to go to the Team, or sometimes they call it Team, sometimes they call it Business Edition. That one is $30 a month or $25 a month if you subscribe for a year. But this is the reasons why the business edition is so important. One, if you have Microsoft SharePoint as a firm or Microsoft Outlook as a firm, it can integrate with that, right? It's called your personal knowledge or your internal knowledge. It can scrape that information to give you an answer. Also, if you use Google Workspace, not Gmail, but Google Workspace and Google Drive and all that stuff for business, it can connect to those accounts. But the most important, most significant thing, and you guys are accounting professionals, so you know what this means, is SOC 2 Type 2 compliant. So it's got the highest security standard from, the standards of an accounting profession, of auditing and all that stuff. So if you really, really want your data to be secured, and I'm pretty sure all versions are secure, but the business edition is the one that has been certified, for all these things, multi-factor authentication, SOC 2 Type 2, encryption, all that stuff. So I would say if you are an accounting firm or say any sort of professional firm, strongly consider the business edition. And again, you have to have at least 2 subscribers in there for that to work. When you log into the free edition of ChatGPT and you click on the model picker in the top, you're just going to see one thing that says ChatGPT and then a button to upgrade to Plus that gives you access to more models. However, whenever you're on a paid subscription, you're going to see a couple of options. So generally, you're going to have an auto pick model option. And that's where you let ChatGPT choose which model to pick based on the complexity of your prompt. And what's really nice about the auto edition is some answers, it could be using the fast version. Some answers could be using the thinking version. Some answers could be using the deeper think, the pro edition version. So it'll switch back and forth. You can explicitly pick, I want fast, I want thinking, I want pro. Just remember, pro is the slowest, okay? So if you explicitly pick one of them, it'll continue to use that model through the entire chat. Where if you pick auto, it will switch back and forth. And I'll show an example of that. Another thing is, especially if you follow like Power GPT users in YouTube and social media and stuff, ChatGPT 5, when it first came out, it was a bit underwhelming. A lot of people were used to the older models, the O3 model and the ChatGPT 4.0 model, which were the 2 models that for a while people were using, and they knew when to use one or the other. So the fact that this new ChatGPT 5 kind of auto picks and moves up and down, and it's a new model altogether, so people got nostalgic for the old model. So if you're in a paid edition and you want to see any of the old models, you go into the settings and click on show additional models, and then you'll see that it'll give you access to some of the older models. So I recommend trying that, especially if you're used to the older models. I see a question here live. Let me just answer that really quick. Does the free version allow you to pick the model like that? So the answer is no. The free edition is almost always going to start with what they call the fast or the flagship model, and then it's going to go down to the mini model, which is not even available here. The mini model, which just gives you quick answers, but it doesn't think, doesn't reason, and is more likely to hallucinate. So if you have been using ChatGPT free and you've been less than impressed by it, it's probably because you're using the free edition. Just again, we're not being paid by ChatGPT to have you pay, to pay for the. I'm just telling you, realistically speaking, your experience with ChatGPT will significantly get better with the paid editions. When you're about to chat, there's a little option that allows you to choose, modify that chat. You can upload documents. You can use connectors, do deep research, think longer, agent mode, create an image, web search, canvas. All these things have a purpose, and you choose all these modifiers based on what you're trying to achieve. That agent mode, it's only available in paid editions, and the agent mode can do multiple tasks at once. It can, when you give it a task, it can do, there's 3 things that I've seen that it can do. One, it can surf the web. So surfing the web is different than searching the web. So searching the web means, reading the text. Surfing the web means experiencing the menus. So if you tell somebody, tell me, how QuickBooks works in a web search, it's going to read the QuickBooks website. It's gonna read all the text that's in there. If you tell it, log into QuickBooks or log into a QuickBooks sample file, go through the reports menu and tell me what the limitations are. The thing will literally open up a browser, open up QuickBooks and play with it, like clicking it, almost like if somebody like a ghost is sitting there and clicking on different things, and it'll read things to it. So there's a difference between having it surf the web versus searching the web. The other thing that it can do is it can do deep research within multiple connectors. So you can say, go into my Google Drive and also go into my Dropbox and reconcile the documents I have in the two, or something like that. Or I have a folder in my Google Drive called Hector's Old Files, and I have a folder in my Dropbox called Hector's Old Files. Can you find those two folders and tell me which files are missing from either or, because I want them both to have the same type of files. It will do that for you. You can also say create a spreadsheet with the results of the work that is there. So again, I can't do an example here because it'll probably take a couple hours to set something up and record a video and cut it and that sort of thing. But just keep in mind that if you go into agent mode, these are the things that it's capable of doing. Now on this slide, I have an explanation of every one of those modifiers. Not going to go into it for expediency, but just keep it in mind. This could be your cheat sheet. There's an old thing called Operator, which is what does the web browsing. I did a video on that. That was a couple months ago. Take out that video, because once you see that video, you'll understand what I mean by ChatGPT browsing the web, not searching the web. And so I'm going to go in a couple minutes. I'm going to go into ChatGPT and do some of the examples. I'm just trying to set up all the changes and all the things that are the new things anyway. If you haven't touched it in a couple of months, when you go customize the chat, this is where you tell it, what your name is, or what you want ChatGPT to call you, what you do, like what you do for a living, what you do professionally, and then they added these new personality profiles. So cynic, robot, listener, nerd, that changes the style on how it writes. You can also tell it what traits to have. So you can say things like, tell like it is, don't sugarcoat, that sort of thing. And then you can give it additional notes. So anything else ChatGPT needs to know, you type it in there and it significantly changes your answer. And I'll show you an example of that, because that's probably the best thing to showcase, is a customization. Last thing is, there's actually, anytime you're in thinking mode, ChatGPT, whether they auto switch to thinking mode or you have it in thinking mode, all the answers take longer. And because we're in the now generation where everybody wants the answer now and can't wait 5 minutes for an answer, you actually have an option to click get quick answer or stop thinking, but just let know it's switching from the thinking model to the non-thinking model. And again, the thinking model, it's reasoning, it sort of argues with itself, double checks its answers, and is less likely to hallucinate. The last piece on customization is something I'm going to strongly recommend. There's something called reference saved memories. It's called memories. So every time you tell ChatGPT remember and then say something else, or you told it something and then you tell it remember that for the future, whatever it is. Anytime you say the remember or store it in memories or save it to memories, it will save that particular piece of information into the memory. So for example, I told it, remember my favorite books are boom, and I put my favorite books in there. And that's one really good way to prompt ChatGPT to help you think about stuff. Because if you do have favorite books, there's themes in the books and there's reasons why you like those books. It can grab themes from those books and apply them. I'll do an example of that. It's really interesting. And apply them to, kind of like your thinking of what you're working with. But you can also do this for other reasons. You can add context. You can add your political bias to it. You can say, hey, by the way, I'm not a big fan of the, Big Beautiful Bill Act. As a matter of fact, I think the Trump administration, blah, 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 right? You put your bias. Or the opposite. I think the Big Beautiful Bill is the most amazing thing ever created. The Trump administration is completely transforming America for the better. You can put whatever your political bias is in there. And then later on, as you tell it, hey, help me write a letter to this customer that's very inclined on this side of the aisle or that side of the aisle. And they're telling me that they think that the new tax bill is X. Can you counteract that response based on my preferences? And it'll go back in there and understand that you have that bias or you have those preferences and create responses like that. So that's actually it's kind of controversial to use that as an example, but I think that's just a very interesting one to use because even though accounting professionals are professionals first and political beings later, taxes particularly are very political, right? And then anytime we have discussions with our clients and we want to leverage ChatGPT to help us, have more assertive discussions about tax or tax policy or whatever, we want it to be shaped to our worldview, not the worldview of the people that trained ChatGPT. So I love the fact that you can do that with your memories, also with your chat history. So you have both those options, memories and chat history for that. So I'll give you an example, and I will get off politics for a second. So we'll give you an example that's more focused on, let's say, my own aspiration. So I'm going to tell ChatGPT, if I were to rebrand my accounting firm based on my favorite books, and I don't have to list the books because they're part of my memory, what I'm into these days, that's based on the chat history, what name would I pick and why? Also help me with my purpose statement. Also, I want a radically different business model as the status quo, but I need it to be customer centric, especially with the current AI will take over accounting narrative that seems to get some traction. So that's the prompt, and I put that into slides so you can copy and paste that prompt and try it yourself, because I think it would be particularly interesting to see your ChatGPT with your history, with your memory, assuming you have that, to answer that. So let me just zoom the screen in here, and I'm going to paste that prompt in there. Now, keep in mind, very important, that I'm going to go into my settings here, and I'm going to go into personalization, and I have turned on reference saved memories and reference chat history. If I were to turn these off, if I were to turn them both off, and then ask this question, it's probably not going to give me a lot of information because it kind of doesn't know who I am. Okay. But it didn't take the save because I was supposed to refresh, but just keep in mind that if you turn that off, it won't know who you are. In this case, I hit enter too fast, but that's fine. So here's the answer. What I think would fit right now, based on your favorite books, what you're into, and your desire to push against status quo, customer-centric, post-AI narrative, then it's starting to give me my answer. So it's pulling, contextual data, again, from the history. So the first one says, look, based on your reframe thinking style, so that's my business, and there's tons of stuff that I built in ChatGPT to help me shape the thinking for reframe, and the books you love, The Infinite Game, The Speed of Trust, Exactly What to Say, and your drive to rebrand accounting as forward-looking, these are the names that I recommend. So one of the names is Clarity Ledger and explains why. And then we have Infinity Advisory, based on The Infinite Game. And then we have the Trust Practice based on the Speed of Trust. Lucrative Altruism Advisors. That's pretty cool. It's a concept that that I was brainstorming with ChatGPT at some point last year, the concept of lucrative altruism. And then we have Reframe Accounting. Of course, that's the name of it. Puts your industry movement right in the name, signals boldness and transformation. And then here's the purpose statement: to reframe accounting as the most human-centered, creative, and future-ready profession to deliver clarity, building trust, and empowering clients to thrive in an AI era. And then here's its explanation. Here's the radically different business model. So, for example, a customer-centric post-AI structure could look like this: a subscription plus access model. So replace billable hours with tiered membership that gives clients ongoing access to advice. AI-enhanced reporting, periodic strategic sessions, includes unlimited quick questions, so clients never hesitate to reach out. And then there's a whole bunch of different options. We have outcome-based guarantees, and then here's will improve your cash position by X within 12 months, and partial fee refunds if targets aren't met, and client co-creation. So we build things together, and AI transparency layer. So show clients how AI is used for work to make confident and enhanced decisions, not replacing human, not replacing oversight. Experience first delivery. So you get to see kind of how it develops even further. You can, again, go one step further, and you can do things like even deeper. I'm going to I'll showcase one more thing here. So we connect Google Drive, for example, And I'm just gonna go to Google. I'll connect my Google Drive. It's already been connected, so the connection process will be fairly quick. So I connect my Google Drive. So in this conversation, I can click on Use Connectors and then say Google Drive, and then I can say, so based on documents in my drive, what else is this missing? So I'm kind of combining. I'm combining this is a dual example. So the first thing was I went in there and I told it, based on what my favorite books and what I'm into these days. That way it checks both the memory and my chat history. And then now I'm telling it to actually go inside my Google Drive, look at all those documents, and then find more information. So I guess it found the document here, and then it's telling me what's missing in your current approach: a clear niche, an authority position, right, and a manifesto-driven identity, and explicit transformation economy promise, and full integration and subscription of value pricing, and customer co-creator as a differentiator. And then it just goes in and explains that. And then here at the bottom, it gives me the sources so I can see which documents I read, right? So I read this one called 100 Mastermind Topics for Accounting Professionals. So I read that and informed its decisions on that. Interestingly enough, it read today's presentation. Actually, I love that. I love that. It read this one called Personal Branding for Accountants, and exactly what to say book with accountant notes and the Reframers Manifestos. It just read documents of stuff, my internal knowledge base that I built, for my business, for the different entities that I work with. It read that and it used that to create the content. The output is going to be much, much rich, like this. So Mary's asking, Hector, do you trust ChatGPT enough to give it access to your Google Drive? That is a great, deep, existential question. Okay. So I'm going to give you my answer. If my Google Drive contained tax documents, payroll checks, W-2s, that sort of thing, I probably wouldn't connect it. I don't work for OpenAI. I've never edited OpenAI. I don't know, how secure their platform is. And also, I have never disclosed to my client that their data is in a drive or in a Dropbox or something in which I have opened an artificial intelligence platform to. So I think that if I was a client of a firm that would use my data in that way, that at least they should disclose it to me. So my policy is, since I've never had the conversation with a client, that didn't include it in the engagement letter, I would never share a folder that contains sensitive identifiable information. But Mary, here's the other side of the coin, and this is unfortunately what kind of models the argument a little bit. Very soon, you're going to see multiple companies that are going to say, hey, our tax software connected to AI can go into the client's folder where all the data is and can prepare the return automatically, grabbing all the source documents. You don't even have to label the source documents. It can have whatever random label the client gave it when they upload it, and it'll read it and it'll know what it is and where it goes and what returns it goes to. That sounds amazing. That future sounds absolutely amazing, right? A future where tax professionals don't have to transcribe stuff from a form into a tax software. And I know some tax software allows you to upload the file and it'll read it, but you still have to say upload W-2 or you still have to tell it which form it goes to. It's not like it just grabs documents and automatically puts it where it's supposed to go. And even if some software does that, you still have to upload all the documents in an organized fashion. Imagine a world where we just have a folder where all our clients are, and clients are uploading stuff in real time. And this tax software is just reading stuff as the client uploads stuff, and it keeps uploading the tax software, and it keeps updating the tax software. And you just get emails every day saying, oh, by the way, I just updated, Mike's tax return. He just uploaded a 1099B statement. And Mary deleted the W-2, the duplicate W-2. So we deleted it from like imagine a world where your tax, whatever your functional software is, whether it's tax, accounting, bookkeeping, audit, doesn't matter. You have the source documents that you use to do the work, the ones that inspire the work. There's going to be a world where the software that's completing the work is going to be linked to the source documents folder. And when you connect them, you can automate stuff. So that was a long-winded way, Mary, to say I wouldn't do it now, but I do see a future where I'm sort of forced to because all the accounting firms are going to do it, and then tax returns will be prepared in 15 minutes rather than 2 hours. And how we're going to remain competitive when that happens. Now, I can go into like a huge deep rant about whether that's healthy or not healthy for a profession, for all of us to race to the bottom using AI to see how quickly we can prepare documents so we can lower the price. I probably don't want that, but I just don't see how we don't get there. That's where it's heading. So that's why I build a whole event around pricing, is just because I'm just the one most really important thing that I'm worried about, concerned about a profession is how is this type of work and the speed up of the work and the narrative and the perception of the speed of the work going to change our pricing conversations with our clients, change the structure of how many employees we need. There's a lot of change coming, and I'm doing these webinars to kind of show you, things as I discover them. But most importantly, I invite you to think with me about, what kind of future we want to shape when all these moving parts are coming along. So thank you, Mary, for that question. Love it. I love going into these mini rants. Another prompt I really like, and this was posted by my friend Ed Class in LinkedIn, who's like not an AI expert in any way, but when he posts something about AI, that means it was significant to him, and he's a really deep thinker. So I really like this, and I'll show you the prompt. So the prompt says, "You are an AI assistant helping me excel at my job as X." Just pick the profession, right? Tax accountant, bookkeeper, it doesn't matter, right? Just pick whatever it is, right? And also put yourself in the position of you just hired a brand new 25-year-old, recently off college accountant that has no experience, and you want them to really quickly ramp up, right? So I love this prompt. First, ask me 10 targeted questions to deeply understand my work, my goals, my biggest challenges, and my preferred communication style. Then, based on those answers, create a personalized GPT usage guide that includes the following for me: example prompts I can use daily, weekly, and long term, tips for refining my prompts to get better results, pitfalls to avoid when using ChatGPT in my profession, and a list of advanced use cases I might not have considered, and a plan to progressively master ChatGPT in the last 30 days. So this is kind of let's call it a meta prompt, right? It's a prompt about prompts, and the purpose of this prompt is to help ChatGPT build a guide on how you can leverage and learn ChatGPT. Very meta. So let's change this from tax accountant to maybe QuickBooks Online bookkeeper doing a lot of end year cleanup work. And then for the sake of expediency, we'll go to like 5 targeted questions instead of 10, so we can get through the webinar with that. So we'll start like that. And I could use any model, the automatic, the fast, the thinking, or whatever. So I'm going to start with the automatic, and then I'm going to send it. And then it's choosing what to do. So in this case, it didn't say thinking. So it chose to use the fast model. So it just went. Okay. Now I could have gone different. I could have said use the thinking model. Or what I'll do is I'll edit this prompt here really quick, and then I'll come back here and do a short-term modifier. Actually, I'll do it after. I can say I'll switch it up here. Sorry. So I'm gonna go back and do thinking, and then do send, and then you will notice that it won't give me the answer right away. It will think a little bit harder. Now, does it always get a better answer? No, it doesn't. But what the thinking does is it if you click on it, it tells you what it's doing. So it's kind of explaining to you the logic that it's using, right? So it's saying, okay, I'm going to focus on that. Aim for concise, actual, and then I'm going to do one more bullet point. So this is its thinking. This is the user side of the thinking, right? So I'm putting together 5 focused, actionable questions. I'm writing the next set of questions. So it's thinking through it, it's reading its answer, it's going back, modifying the answer. So it should be a little bit better or more meaningful. So here we go. I'll tailor everything to workflow. Here's the quick questions. Client and scope. So how many active clients do you have, and what industries, and typical mess you inherit, et cetera, et cetera. And then year-end targets and thresholds. And there's a lot of details, particularly with this thinking version. But we'll try this again, and we'll go backwards to the non-thinking version just so we can move a little faster. So let's start answering the questions. So the first one is, when you end up cleaning clients, what typical tasks do you do more often? So we're going to do 1. We're going to say, spend a lot of time fetching documents with clients, reconciling bank accounts, fixing wrong categorization by client. Okay, so I'm going to go second answer. So I'm going to read it. Primary goals, top priorities is use ChatGPT to cut my data entry work in half. Again, I don't know how ChatGPT can cut your data entry work in half. I'm asking ChatGPT for it to give me, based on what it knows it can do, what I want. The next one is challenges and pain points. What are the biggest time wasters? I'm going to say, I would say deleting duplicates and garbage data entered by client. Okay. Then the next one is 4, communication style. Do you prefer concise bullet points, detailed step-by-step guides? Let's say I like detailed step-by-step guides. Let's just do that. So we'll do 4, paste that. Skill level. How experienced are you with QuickBooks Online? I'm going to say just got started. So just got started, but I am a certified pro advisor. Okay. So that's the first set of context I gave it, which is the 5 questions that I told it to ask me. So it can learn about me and customize the answer based on that. So I'm going to send that. And then it's thinking. Remember, I switched it to thinking mode. So I'm going to override it, again, for the expediency of time. Click on get quick answer. And that's a really cool thing about it, is you can have it override and go straight to the fast mode. And then if you don't like it, just go back, edit it, and then have it try again with the thinking mode. So here's the personalized ChatGPT user guide. So here's prompts, right? So these are examples of prompts. So walk me step by step to reconciling a bank account when there are unmatched transactions. Give me a checklist for identifying missing or fixing categorized transactions. Write me a polite professional email requesting missing receipts for your client, for the client. How can I quickly identify duplicates in QuickBooks without exporting in Excel? So I'll just grab one of these here and kind of start a side chat, because this is my main chat, but I'm going to start a side chat and just kind of like take his advice, right? So like use one of the prompts. And again, the purpose of that original one is to give me ideas on what prompts I can use so I can learn with ChatGPT, or use it as a side-by-side guide or side-by-side helper for me to do the work. So that's what it is. I'm gonna go to get quick answer. So we're skipping the thinking, although thinking is always gonna give you a better answer. But so here's some of the tools. So use the global search bar. So type the amount, customer name. Okay, so filter transaction list. So it tells you where to go to see a transaction list where you can group and sort or whatever it is, right? Sort in the register view. Okay, and then use the audit log to check patterns, and it guides you through that. So it's really, really awesome. A lot of these prompts are useful, and there's daily, weekly, long term based on that original prompt. Then we have top tips to refine prompts. So here's some tips on how to make the prompts better. Pitfalls to avoid. So copy and pasting on unverified instructions. So QuickBooks updates frequently. Double check, the button names and menu. Really good warning. Being too vague. So help me with this without explaining what this is. Overlooking client-specific rules. So automatic categorization suggests no match your client's tax setup. Relying solely on memory prompts. So save useful responses into personal bookkeeper's playbook. So create a document basically for that. And then some advanced use cases: bulk email drafting, client training materials, audit preparation, data cleanup scripts that you could use in Excel or Google Sheets. That's an interesting use case. A workflow, automation with Zapier, Make, or whatever. So just giving you ideas on how you can leverage ChatGPT, as you learn the tool. So I love that prompt. And then I'll do the last prompt here before we wrap it up, which is I use in study mode. So this is a really, really cool one to learn something new using sort of traditional learning environment. So we do is we come in here to the new button, we go to more, more, and then we click on study and learn, and then we paste that prompt. So the prompt was, I need to learn how to apply the learnings from the Big Beautiful Bill Act, and within a few hours I have a call with a client tomorrow to do some tax planning. Again, I gotta speed up my knowledge on a particular subject matter. So I did study mode. So study mode first gives you a summary. So it starts with that. But then after it gives you a summary, you're going to see, we'll wait until it finishes. It goes into, typically when you learn something new, what the next step for study mode is. Okay. So I'm going to say, help me study and learn. Okay. And then it switches over to study mode. So, who's your client profile tomorrow? You answer that question. I would say all issues related to tax planning for 2025. And then it goes, we're going to go in 3 rounds. So we're going to, core rules, application drills, quick recall game. So it goes to the first round and tells you, okay, here's the information. Okay, and then it quizzes you on it, which is pretty awesome, right? So I'm going to say, I don't know. I don't know. And then it'll tell you, okay, don't worry, let's keep practicing. Here's the different things. So again, and then it quizzes you on again. So that's kind of the concept of study mode, that even though you could yourself, tell it, hey, help me study for this and do a regular prompt. It's already pre-designed or pre-set up on purpose for you to learn. Again, it'll quiz you, it'll do different rounds, different ways of delivering the information that's more conducive to sort of a learning approach, not so much spitting out of information approach. So with that being said, I want to thank everybody for being in the webinar. Thank you, CP Academy, for hosting this. Thank you, everybody, for your questions. If I didn't answer your question live or via chat, just email me your question directly, hector@reframeaccounting.com. I would love to help you as much as I can. Thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next webinar.